us. Thanks for joining us. It's been more than a month now since the Marawi crisis started. Government troops continue to intensify its operations against terrorists to regain control of Marawi City. We now check the situation there. Our Camila Badisha joins us live. Camille, how are the military operations there so far?
The bomb run started early today, and these have been happening for the past few days. We are receiving reports from the troops on the ground that there's heavy fighting on ground zero as we speak. There are reports of wounded soldiers since the heavy fighting yesterday, but we have yet to verify the number and the injuries that they got. I'm now here about 2 kilometers away from the war zone. The last numbers that the military released is that there are 66 soldiers killed in action and about 268 mounted terrorists killed. Again, I'm here this is less than 2 kilometers away from the war zone. And behind me, there are actually areas where you see thick black smoke coming out. The military says that the terrorists have started using fuel bombs and LPG improvised explosive device, and this is what's causing all of these the fire in the 4 barangays still occupied by the mounted terrorists. And actually the smoke that we have seen today is actually worse than what we've been seeing for the past few days. And the military says we expect more intensified attacks right now. I don't know if you can hear it, there's an aircraft hovering over the war zone, dropping bombs on the area still held by the mounted terrorists. Mai?
You can see the live video, Camille. But how many hostages are still in the hands of the mounted group?
The latest information that we got is that there are still over 100 hostages with the Maute group, and they're using mosques as their logistical hubs where they hide some of their hostages. And they also used some of the hostages as manpower. They asked them to, wear their uniform and to lay bombs or IEDs on the ground to fight the soldiers. Mai?
You said you're 2 kilometers away from the war zone. Stay safe, Camille. Camila Badisha there, joining us live from Marawi City. The government is preventing more foreign terrorists from entering the country. One way to do that, joint maritime patrols of the Philippines, Indonesia, and Malaysia to stop foreign terrorists from taking advantage of the country's south porous border. The AFP says they're not discounting the possibility that some terrorists may have slipped into the country through airports and seaports. 40 foreign terrorists are believed to be in the country, most of them Indonesians. Malaysians, Arabs, Yemenis, and Pakistanis account for the others. Meanwhile, as far as the Indonesian Defense Ministry is concerned, 1,200 ISIS operatives, who also include Indonesians, are in the Philippines. But AFP Chief Eduardo Año is disputing this, saying these operatives are not ISIS, but from local terror groups.
Pag inad-up po yung Maute, BIFF, Abu Sayyaf, at saka AKP, abutin pa siya ng 1,300. Sa tingin nila, ISIS lahat yun. Pero sa atin, hindi yan ISIS kasi mga locals yun. Although they pledge allegiance to the ISIS.
The more ISIS supporters in the Philippines, the higher their chances of setting up a hub in the country. To prevent this, the government calls on Filipinos to stand up against ISIS.
We have people coming from the outside because they believe in a strong narrative. They have a very strong story that they want to establish a province in Southeast Asia, and specifically in the Philippines. I believe this is also, in a sense, a wake-up call for Filipinos to be able to come together.
A police anti-drug unit recovers 2 kilograms of shabu and other drug paraphernalia from the house of former Marawi City Mayor Omar Ali Solitario. During a house-to-house search in Barangay Bangon in Marawi Friday morning, authorities stumbled upon the 2 kilos of shabu at Ali's house, previously occupied by Maute fighters. The PNP says there were also indications of drug use. He notes it's common knowledge Solitario backs the Maute group.
We conducted the house-to-house search along Lakeside, Barangay Bangon, Marawi City. Former Mayor Omar R. Solitario is a known supporters of the Maute group and nasa high-value target siya. Nakabukub ng Maute yun, yung bahay na yun.
President Rodrigo Duterte has tagged Ali last year as one of the local government officials involved in the illegal drug trade. A month into the battle to liberate Marawi from the Maute group trying to take the city for ISIS, the death toll, 280 rebels, 69 government forces and 26 civilians. More than 14,000 families are displaced and affected. Our correspondent Camille Abadisio and her team just finished covering a story in the Lake Lanao area when a unit of soldiers by the water came under fire. Here's an exclusive report from Marawi.
Heavily armed members of the military's 103rd Riverine Unit prepared to engage the enemy in the water. A composite team is closely guarding Lake Lanao as Maute fighters try to escape the war zone using small boats. Just before going on patrol, Maute fighters on the other side of the lake fire at the troops. The army immediately shoots back. The military is pressing forward to the nerve center of the terrorists holding out in Marawi, forcing the enemy to find a way out through Lake Lanao. The Naval Task Unit says the Maute has been using the lake to escape and provide supplies to its fighters.
Meron rin mga dyan, yung nag-attempt na mag-escape, especially several bangkas from the Maute groups. Then meron rin yung gustong nag-attempt rin na mag-reprovision ng bala at saka magdagdag ng tao nila sa loob dun sa Marawi City. So majority naman sa mga report na action na natin lahat.
With over 35,000 hectares of surface area covering 2 provinces, the lake is a challenge to secure for authorities. That is why the military is reinforcing its water assets. The naval unit sank a boat carrying terrorists attempting to get out of the battlefield. It captured 2 other boats with Maute rebels on board, killing 3 and wounding 1. All roads going in and out of Marawi City are heavily guarded by government forces, so the terrorists are opting to use the lake, some even swimming their way out.
Meron mga reports, saka may mga encounter yung ating tropa na dyan sa lake. Yun nga, pinagbabawal na namin na yung mga ordinaryong bangka kasi pag nandyan yung mga bangka, suspected na sila kagad. Kasi yun yung ginagawa, nagka-camouflaging yung ating mga kalaban.
The military is clearing other coastal towns surrounding Lake Lanao to make sure enemies do not get away. In Marawi City, Camille Abadisio, CNN Philippines.
The faith of displaced Marawi residents remains firm. Amid the turmoil in their city, they prepare in their own little ways to observe Eid al-Fitr, or the end of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. Our senior correspondent David Santos tells us more.
The country's so-called Islamic city, ironically, will not be celebrating Islam's most joyous occasion. Instead of festive gatherings, residents of Marawi will spend the weekend away from home, for many at evacuation camps and temporary shelters. There will be no overflowing food, fun music and dancing, or sharing of gifts, only mourning and suffering with no end in sight.
Ito ang pinaka malungkot na aid na maidadaraos namin. So kahit na malungkot, ang importante makapanalangin kami sa Diyos na talagang mawakasan na itong paghihirap ng mga Marawinian.
Eid al-Fitr comes a month after Marawi came under siege by radical Islamic militants. It remains unclear when the fighting will stop, but the military says it has made significant gains. For one, it foiled the so-called Grand Plan, militants setting up an Islamic caliphate and ruling over Marawi.
Hindi sila nagtagumpay. 92 barangays are already cleared. Okay? May semblance of governance na tumatayo na yung ating mga iba't ibang ahensya sa kanilang mga humanitarian activities.
While the Muslim world celebrates Eid al-Fitr, Marawi will be in deep reflection.
We're not only dealing with the Maute group in the Abu Sayyaf, we're also fighting the war against extremism.
Even when the crisis ends, Marawi will have to come to terms with why it happened in the first place. Did the city unwittingly allow violent radicalism to come in? Should Marawi take all the blame? Local officials say the militants exploited the deep-seated grievances of Moros over historical injustices against them. But they failed to get the full support of the people because officials insist Maranaos know better.
Ngayon ba ay kinukuha sa amin ang aming mga religion, kinukuha sa amin ang aming mga lupain, kinukuha sa amin, ginagahasa ba ang mga babae sa amin? Hindi naman eh.
Tied with the fighting the increase of extremism, we also need to finally address the issue of moral problem, the moral question.
President Rodrigo Duterte is set to sign the draft bill of the Bangsamoro Basic Law next week. Bill proponents have long warned failure to pass the BBL could fuel extremism in Mindanao. It remains to be seen now if the new BBL can prevent another Marawi or if it's a deal that's too little, too late. In Marawi City, David Santos, CNN Philippines.
When the newsroom returns, militants in Mindanao, the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters flee Pigawayan town in North Cotabato but leave behind threats against President Rodrigo Duterte. In this photo, they write and claim to be ISIS. They also say they're part of the same group sowing terror in Marawi. This other message posted on a school blackboard says the government cannot defeat them and announce Davao is their next target. And here, written on the wall, they threaten to behead President Duterte. Presidential spokesman Ernesto Abella says the group is incapable of launching an attack on the president.
These are isolated groups that are brilliant at media manipulation. However, they do not have the necessary support coming from the ground itself.
The BIFF attacked Pigawayan on Wednesday, where they held 31 hostages. All hostages were rescued by government troops. Saudi security forces foil an attack on the Grand Mosque in Mecca. The country's interior minister says security forces surrounded a home where the suspect was hiding. He refused to comply with demands to surrender, opened fire on security forces, and then blew himself up. This caused the building in which the suspect was hiding to collapse. 6 expatriates and 5 security personnel were injured, while 5 people supposedly involved in the plot were arrested. The Grand Mosque, or the Masjid al-Haram, is the largest mosque in the world. It surrounds Islam's holiest site, the Kaaba, a shrine that worshippers circle during the Hajj, the annual pilgrimage that brings millions of people to Mecca. The Social Welfare Department opens its doors to solo parents. They're treated to a free massage and a facial and free medical consultation for Solo Parents Day. The DSWD is the lead agency monitoring the implementation of RA 8972, or the Solo Parents Welfare Act of 2000. But some groups say the law needs to be amended. Still ahead, let's meet this week's CNN hero who helps people with disabilities become productive members of society. And we take you to San Juan and give you highlights of the Wata Wata Festival. This is Newsroom Weekend on CNN Philippines. Stay tuned. Good afternoon to all our viewers live on Facebook right now. I'm looking forward to that report on the Wata Wata Festival, and Rex Rumitio is monitoring festivities for us there.
Safe, you must have lots of patience when you pass by San Juan. Otherwise, make sure all the doors of your car are locked, as some people will try to open them while holding buckets in their hand. At 9 o'clock this morning, a watercade around the streets of San Juan, led by city officials, doused residents with water. Their parish priest blessed the water from the fire truck, and people who get wet believe they are blessed. This is actually a recreation of the baptism of Jesus Christ by St. John the Baptist in the River Jordan. While San Juaneños celebrate this tradition to douse others with water, there are some rules to follow. Only clean water is allowed. Ice-cold water or hot water is not allowed for today's festivities. Lots of activities here. Residents join the street dancing competition and Santong Tao float parade. Now let's hear what some San Juan City residents and even foreigners have to say about this festival.
Sightseeing ba? Isang beses isang taon, di ba? So, festival. We want to go to this festival po.
First time ko sumali ngayon!
Ano masabi mo?
Magulo!
Okay. Pangilang beses nyo na to sumali dito? If you're going to work or aren't ready to get wet, do make sure to avoid the city of San Juan every June 24th. Otherwise, go to this place and have some fun by wetting yourself at the araw ng San Juan. Rex Remigio, CNN, Philippines.
More celebrations of the Feast of St. John the Baptist in the country. In Balayan, Batangas, residents celebrate the feast by splashing water to revelers during its Parada ng Lechon or the Parade of Roasted Pigs. The splashing of water represents Christ's baptism. People in a village in Nueva Ecija mark the celebration by transforming themselves into so-called taong putik. They cover themselves in mud. It is said that this tradition represents the way John the Baptist disguised himself when he baptized Jesus Christ. The Signal HD Spikers are kings of the Premier Volleyball League, while the NBA welcomes a new batch of rookies. Our sports desk anchor Miko Halili has more.
The best rookies are eager to make a strong impression in the NBA. Markelle Fultz from the University of Washington leads this year's NBA draft class. Fultz was picked #1 overall by the Sixers. He is the first player from the University of Washington to be selected #1 overall in the NBA draft. The Lakers selected UCLA's Lonzo Ball at #2. Duke's Jason Tatum was the 3rd overall pick as he joined the Celtics. With the 4th pick, the Suns selected Josh Jackson from the University of Kansas. And rounding out the top 5 was University of Kentucky's De'Aaron Fox. Fox will join the Sacramento Kings. Moving to volleyball, at last, the Signal HD Spikers converted finals frustration to championship success in the PVL Reinforced Conference. In our interview with the HD Spikers, the Kings of the PVL said their title victory was the product of both talent and effort.
Because effort wins games. Talent's always there. So what important is how you polish the talent, how you use that talent. And a little bit of effort, konti pa, and makukuha na nila yung gusto. Sabi ko nga, just keep on pushing forward, and who knows, you will be at the last obstacle, and nandun na kayo sa gusto yung puntahan. And yun nga, with their effort, with their sacrifices, nag-pay off naman yung sacrifice.
So what was the difference? I mean, what was the difference between the past 2 finals against Air Force and in this one, finally, breakthrough, you got the championship?
At first, medyo dramatic yung naging elimination round namin kasi parang, di ba, 2 beses na kami natalo sa finals. 2 tournament na kami natalo sa finals ng Air Force, and then yung eliminations na, ito dapat yung tournament na dapat babawi kami, and na straight sets kami ng Air Force, which is yung na-convert naman ng finals, so sobrang saya and fulfilling yung naging naramdaman namin.
Catch our interview with the Signal HD Spikers and more on Sports Desk Weekend. I'm Miko Halili. Back to you.
Miko will be back after the show at 12:30. As a mother of 2 children with Down syndrome, Amy Wright was dismayed when she realized that nearly 70% of adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities don't have jobs. Today, she employs 40 people with disabilities, proof that they are capable members of today's workforce. That makes Amy this week's CNN hero.
What'd you do in PE?
Flying.
Running?
Yeah.
Did your sneakers help you run fast?
Yes.
When you become a parent of a child with special needs, you are instantly thrust into being an advocate.
Mommy, look.
Trying to make people see the beauty in their lives that we see. Ben and I have 2 older daughters, and then we have Bo and Biddy, and they both have Down syndrome.
You ready? Here it goes.
People are scared of what they don't know, and so we've decided to live out loud and to show people what our lives are like. People with disabilities, sometimes the world just passes them by. Most of them are unemployed, and we really felt like we wanted to do something about it. And it was like coffee shop.
Hey guys, good morning. Welcome to Biddy and Boo's. It's open.
Other than our two managers, everybody that works at Biddy and Bo's Coffee has an intellectual or developmental disability. Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, autism.
And your first latte of the day.
We figured out what their skill set was and we plugged them in. Now we have 40 employees.
You made them feel welcome. That's awesome.
Yeah. When you just give them a chance, they can do anything you ask them to do.
It's nice to see you.
Our employees are like celebrities now. When people come into the shop, they want to speak to Matt and they want to dance with Trevor. For most of them who have never had a job before, it's really exciting.
Bonjour, monsieur.
Having a workplace that makes you feel proud of yourself and gives you a sense of community is something we all want.
I love Amy so much.
Oh, I love you too, Richard.
This is the perfect way to bring people together and to let them realize how much more alike we are than different.
The employees are really warm and welcoming. It's like a Starbucks with lots of extras.
I always leave just filled. My heart is overflowing every time.
We always say it's more than a cup of coffee. It's a human rights movement. It's given our employees the respect that they deserve. It's allowed them to shine.
That's what's happening in the newsroom this Saturday, June 24th. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Catch the